Welcome back, everyone, of Westlake Hornets Teambuilder Dynasty. Today we don't have a game, but we do have the recruiting special where we go around the country looking at high school prospects who could be future Westlake Hornets. Next episode will be against the 3-0 Washington Huskies, but we're going to take a look at around 12 or 13 prospects, and then we'll look at the whole recruiting board. But first, we're going to look in depth at 12 or 13 prospects, guys who we think could end up committing to our team, so let's get right into it. I went to a number of high school football games around the country looking at players who potentially want to play for college ball here at Westlake. Starting with the number one outside linebacker in the country, a 4-star from Centerville, Utah. His name is Matt Parsons. He is extremely athletic. He's a good run stopper, good pass rusher. He showed a lot of initial interest in coming here, but the past couple weeks his interest has really declined in coming to Westlake, and it looks like he's going to go to one of the other Utah schools, all of whom are Westlake's rivals. So he's either going to come here to Westlake or he's going to go to one of their rivals, which I find really interesting. The next guy we have here is only a junior. We looked at him last year as a sophomore, and he's even better now. He is one of the most explosive players in high school football. Definitely going to be a 5-star next year, maybe the number one player in the country next year. His name is Dante Savage. 6'2", 195, that is elite size for a running back. That is like NFL running back size. He's fast, he's explosive, he's agile, he breaks tackles, he can catch passes. He is the most complete running back I've ever seen coming out of high school, and he's only a junior, which is crazy. I think he has Heisman potential, and I think he has NFL superstar potential. The next player we have here is the number 14 wide receiver in the country, wearing jersey number 14. Westlake is really the only team going after him, which is a surprise, which I think he's really good. His name is Nigel Wiggins. He's fast, he's explosive, and he doesn't drop passes too often, which makes me think of Everett Lemieux. Lemieux is a freshman this year at Westlake, coming out of high school last year, and he has been a superstar for the Hornets. And I think Nigel Wiggins can be a superstar as well for Westlake. I think this could be a really good pickup and one of the best in this year's class. The next guy we have here is a cornerback, 5'10", 180 pounds. He's pretty undersized, and I think he's very raw, but he has a lot of upside. His name is Theo Galavan, a 3-star from Linden, Utah. It's pretty much a 2-team race between Boise State and Westlake. It's more likely that he's going to go to Boise State, but the Hornets would love to add him to their secondary. He's raw, but he has a lot of potential and a lot of upside, and I think he could be really good in the future for the Broncos or the Hornets. The next guy we're going to be looking at is a fullback. Yes, a fullback. Westlake does not use a fullback a lot in their offense, and this guy's probably not going to come to Westlake anyway, but he's going to go to Utah or BYU. Both of them are Westlake's rivals. His name is L.A. Ulis. The thing I like about him is he is super versatile. He can play running back, fullback, tight end, offensive line. I'm very curious to see what Utah or BYU does with him, just because he's so versatile and so talented. I think he should be at least a 4-star, even though his main position is a fullback. I think he is super good. This guy right here, we've been looking at him the past 3 seasons. Now he's a senior in high school. He is the number 3 quarterback in the country, but he's obviously, I think, the most talented in the country. His name is Peyton Curtis. He reminds me a lot of Patrick Mahomes. They're both big guys. They both have cannons. They're both pretty mobile, and they're both pretty accurate. Curtis is a jack-of-all-trades quarterback. He gives you everything you need, and I think he could be a superstar in college. It is a 3-team race between Westlake, Maryland, and Indiana. The next guy we have here is only a junior, as you can see, sacking Payton Curtis on that play. Super good, and he's from Westlake Village, California, so it's just destined to be, I guess. His name is Marquise Bolton, 6'5", 250. When I was talking to this guy, he is a giant. But he is extremely passionate. He loves the game of football, and I think he could be a really good player for Westlake. Not only do I think he could be a really good defensive end, a really good pass rusher, but I think he could be a really good leader once he's a junior and senior. One of his teammates is an offensive guard, a 3-star guard by the name of Patrick Young. Young is an extremely good pass blocker. Just look at him, just mauling on the little guy right there. Young needs to work on his run blocking, needs to work on his impact blocking. I expect him to be redshirted next year, but I think he could be a starter for a couple of seasons. It's not really a lock that Westlake's going to get him, but I'd be shocked if he didn't come to Westlake. There's not really any other team that's really contending at this point, but I think we could see some teams going after him in the future. The next guy we have right here is a left tackle, a 3-star from Conroe, Texas. I think he's the talent of a 5-star. His name is Michael Singleton. He can really do it all. He can pass block, he can run block, he can hold his blocks, be number 21 offensive tackle in the country. It's not going to be easy, but I think Westlake certainly has a shot at getting him, and I think he'd be a huge addition to this offensive line. I think he would probably start day one at right tackle, and I think he's just an overall very well-rounded player. When we were at this game, we were mainly focused on Singleton, but one of his teammates on the defensive side of the ball really stood out to me at the outside linebacker position. Even though Parsons is the number 1 outside linebacker in the country, I think this kid's better, and he's only a sophomore. His name is Lewis Kahn. He's probably going to be a 5-star in a couple years, 6'3", 220, so he's already a big boy. He's versatile. He can play outside linebacker, defensive end, middle linebacker, nickel corner, probably safety, and I've even seen him play a little bit of offense. I think he could legit potentially win the Heisman Trophy in college, sort of like Charles Woodson as a primary defensive player, playing a little bit of offense. I think he's super good, and I think he could be a star in college. The next guy we have here is a 3-star guard from Brentwood, New York, Pete Cooper. He's an extremely good run blocker, needs to work on his pass blocking, but I think he has a lot of upside. He's pretty athletic. If Westlake gets him, I don't know if he's going to start day one. Probably not, but maybe. It is not going to be easy, but Westlake does have a shot at getting him, but there are multiple teams going after him. The last state we're going to look at is the state of Washington, and starting with the best player in the nation from Black Diamond, Washington, a town just south of Seattle. His name is Adam Alexander. He reminds me a lot of Sean Briggs, who was coming out of high school last year. He's currently being redshirted by the Hornets. As Alexander, he is extremely fast, 4'2", 640. He can play running back. He can play D-back. He's pretty good at coverage, 5'10", 176, and they look very similar, like facial features, which I guess is pretty interesting. I would not be shocked if these two are like distant cousins or something. And the last guy we have here is only a sophomore at that defensive tackle spot. He doesn't put up a lot of stats, but he's a good block stuffer. He sheds a lot of double teams, which opens up opportunities for his teammates. And when he's being single-teamed, he is a matchup nightmare. Marcus Shelton, he's not the biggest, 6'2", 245, but he is definitely still growing. As I said, he's only a sophomore, so I expect him to get taller and bulkier. And I think this guy could be really good for the Westlake defensive line in a few years' time. He's a projected 4-star, but I could very well see him as a 5-star. That is it for the high school highlights. Now we're going to take a look at the full recruiting board. I hope you enjoyed this portion, and on to the next part of the video. That is the first portion of the recruiting special. Now we're going to take an individual look at each position, see who's there. Starting with the quarterback position, of course, Peyton Curtis. We do have the lead on him. Other teams interested are Maryland and Indiana. Indiana doesn't really surprise me, of course. Jackson Kelly, the offensive coordinator at Westlake, the former offensive coordinator, is now the head coach there. I guess Curtis did see something in Jackson Kelly, but he also still sees something in the Hornets, even though they don't have Jackson Kelly anymore at that position. Curtis is very well-rounded. He's pretty mobile. He is a gunslinger, 91 throw power, and he's pretty accurate. And then Josh Jones is sort of the backup option to Peyton Curtis. If Westlake doesn't get Peyton Curtis, he's not super mobile, but he's a pretty solid player, and it's very likely that Westlake does get him. Running back is not a need with Westlake, as Alex Ellis and Sebastian Jackson are both redshirt sophomores, but depth could be helpful, as Andrew Tucker, he might go to Westlake, and then Bruce Williams, I definitely expect to commit to Westlake. At wide receiver, there are 3 players, starting with 4-star Nigel Wiggins. Wiggins visited the campus a week ago, and it's very likely that Westlake does get him, as they are really the only team in the running for him. He doesn't drop a lot of passes, and he's pretty explosive, so that's certainly what Westlake does look for in a wide receiver. Josh Moore and Michael Carter are solid depth, but I'd be surprised if Westlake got either one of them. Looking at the offensive line, Michael Singleton, this guy could probably hop in and start day one. I assume probably at that right tackle spot. From Conroe, Texas, he is a 3-star, but he is one of the best tackles in the country. He's very well-rounded. He can pass and run block, and he holds his blocks for pretty long. So he is a really good football player. Corey Haynes and Bobby Fagan, 2 solid depth guys. Westlake very well might get both of them. Could be solid starters in the future. And then at the guard spot, two players who we did just talk about in the recruiting special, starting with Pete Cooper, who's probably the better of the two, from Brentwood, New York. He is a 3-star, but like Michael Singleton, he is better than that label. He's not a great pass blocker, which I think is why he's not a tackle. That's why he's more of an inside presence. Pretty good run blocker. He needs to learn how to hold on to his blocks longer, only 73 impact blocking. And then Patrick Young, very likely that Westlake does get him. He is also a 3-star. He is a much better pass blocker than Pete Cooper, but nowhere near as good of a run blocker. And Pete Cooper is actually much stronger than Patrick Young. Both of them do need to work on their blocking, however, but they are each very different players, which I think that could benefit each other. I think they could complement each other pretty well. Then at the center position, Nathan Carter, the number 5 center in the country, but he's really not that good. He's not as good as some of his 3-star offensive linemen we looked at, and it's very likely that Carter will commit to Penn State. Looking at the defensive line, Brandon Gilliam at defensive end. He really wants to come to Westlake. Looking at him, he's not super good at anything. He can sort of rush the passer a little bit, but he's not insane, and he is sort of undersized, only 6'1", 248. Maybe he's moved to outside linebacker. Looking at D-tackle, that is sort of a need. So first guy up here is 4-star Jacob Brown. Not a lot of teams have really taken him seriously. He does have some off-the-field concerns. But Westlake understands there's a risk, but this guy looks like an extremely talented player. So Westlake is going after him, and they are in the lead. Defensive tackle is a position of need, and he looks like a run stuffer. Not really someone who can get to the quarterback. He only has 50 speed. And then Trey McKinley and Thomas Foster both looking like they want to come to Westlake. And they both look like good depth players. Looking at the outside linebacker position, here is Matt Parsons, the number 1 at his position in the country from the state of Utah. And looking at his bonus factors, it does not shock me that his number 1 is proximity to home, as the 4 teams going after him are the 4 FBS teams that play in the state of Utah. Utah, BYU, Utah State, and Westlake. So either he's going to go to Westlake or he's going to go to one of their rivals. And it looks more likely like he's going to go to one of the rivals, as Westlake really was the favorite a couple of weeks ago, which is why they scheduled such an early visit. But obviously that didn't work out, as he's really fallen off the past week or two. And now he is 4th compared to those other teams, which is why Westlake has a backup plan, the number 3 outside linebacker in the country, so he's not much worse, Cole Spencer. Cole Spencer weighs a little bit less, but he's 4 inches taller. No one's really going after him yet. And if you look at their skills, I would definitely say Matt Parsons is the better player, but Cole Spencer is good in his own ways. Spencer is much better in coverage, but Matt Parsons is more of a run stopper, more of a pass rusher, and he has 99 acceleration too, which is kind of crazy. So Parsons is definitely the better player. There's not much of a doubt there. But Cole Spencer is still a solid player, and I don't think Westlake would be mad if they got him. Looking at middle linebacker, Westlake has a very bright future at that spot with Chip Barron starting there for the next 2 years, and then after him it'll be Owen Jackson. But Maurice Davis, Garrett Reed, and Tremaine Cade are all solid depth options. Looking at corner, only one on the board, Theo Galavan, a player we did talk about, the number 47 cornerback in the class. He is a little bit small, but he is a pretty talented player. He's a very good man coverage, and he's pretty good at zone coverage as well. Needs to work on the press, needs to work on the run stopping. Probably not someone I'd really want to put in the slot, probably more of an outside guy, even though he's not very big. So I don't really know where to play him yet. Looking at the competitors, Boise State is very likely to get him, but Westlake is giving Boise State some competition. At the 3 safety position, the number 1 3 safety in the country, Jimmy Gray. It looks like Westlake is probably going to get him, but Arizona and Iowa State are certainly going after him. Jimmy Gray, I don't think he has talent of the best safety in the country, and Westlake does not really need a 3 safety, as Leon Moore is only a redshirt freshman. He's only played 4 games so far. He has a very bright future, but once Moore graduates, Jimmy Gray is probably going to be a redshirt junior, so he could be a starter for a good 2 seasons, and I think once he's a redshirt junior, he could be a pretty good player. And then the number 9 3 safety in the country, Pat Ellis, also wants to come to Westlake. He probably doesn't have the talent of the 9th best free safety in the country, But 80 zone coverage is pretty good, but 58 man, that's just ugly. I mean, 3 safeties aren't in man coverage very often, so if he was a corner, that'd be really bad, but since he's a safety, that's not really a big deal, but still, that's just ugly. And then I have a strong safety spot. Ash Jakar is a senior, but remember, Westlake does have Sean Briggs, the 5-star athlete, but they are going after depth in Anthony Simmons. Looking at kicker, Matt Fellows is the kicker of the future, even though he's been terrible so far. But Westlake is going after Alberto Prompel. Their plan is to move either Fellows or Prompel to punter, since Kevin McKinney is a senior. Westlake is the favorite to get him at the moment. Then looking at athletes, the number 1 player in the country, Adam Alexander, a player we did talk about, his main contenders to get him are UCLA, Washington, Westlake, and potentially Boise State. So he wants to go to a Pac-12 school. All 4 of those teams are from the Pac-12. And if you look at him, he reminds me a lot of Sean Briggs a year ago. 98 speed, he can cover, he can play running back, he can sort of play wide receiver. I don't think Sean Briggs is exactly 5'10", 176, but similar size. And they also have the exact same picture, so I guess that's interesting. Mike Carter, I believe he would probably be a linebacker, 3-star athlete. He doesn't look particularly great at anything, but I think he'd be a solid linebacker, 80 tackles, 72 hit power. Can he cover? Not really. Can he rush the passer? Sort of. So he definitely needs some work. And then Joey Latimer. What position would you be, kid? He would probably be a quarterback, 83 throw power, but he cannot throw accurately at all. So I guess he's kind of like a Josh Allen. Pretty good arm, pretty fast, pretty mobile, but not accurate at all. My goodness, that'll do it for the recruiting special. Next episode will be against the 3-0 Washington Huskies, so stay tuned for that. That'll hopefully be up in a couple days, probably, I assume. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, and have a good one.
Hey, man!